The successful demutualization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange was one of my fundamental objectives when I assumed the presidency of the National Council. The journey involved the signing of the demutualization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange Bill into law in August 2018 by the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR.
Bamofin Ogunbanjo was more than just a leader. He was a beacon of light, a guiding force, and a pillar of strength in our community. His dedication to the advancement of our market, his unwavering commitment to excellence, and his profound impacts on the life of those around him are a testament to his remarkable character and leadership.
Abimbola to me was a friend, my president on the Council of the Exchange, and my chairman of the NGX group. So you can see that we related across many divides. The sudden death and the tragic circumstance came to me most shocking.
The receipt of consent from the Securities and Exchange Commission of Nigeria of a no objection in December 2019, which led to the court-ordered meeting, an extraordinary general meeting in March 2020, where members unanimously agreed to requisite resolutions to convert the exchange from a not-for-profit entity limited by guarantee into a profit-making public limited liability company owned by shareholders.
I got to know these working very closely with him on the Council of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, as well as the NGS group. The first is his commitment, total commitment to the capital market. He had a very strong relationship with the brokers to make sure that they were committed to deepening the market, growing our market, capital market. He was also very committed to the investing public.
And finally, the receipt of final approval from the SEC in March 2021 and company registration with the Corporate Affairs Commission. With demutualization, the NGX Group is well positioned to enable strong economic growth and contribute its quota to the development of the Nigerian capital market.
Bamofin Abimbola Ogunbanjo, the man who led the Nigerian Stock Exchange to become a public company, respected in Nigeria's capital market for his immense contribution to the present Nigerian Exchange Group. But let's start from the beginning. Mr. Abimbola Olurotimi Ogunbanjo, known to many as Bamofin, was born 11th of July 1962 to a renowned corporate lawyer, Christopher Oladipo Ogunbanjo, and wife Hilda. His devotion to his parents could not be denied.
What a devoted son he was. You couldn't spend a day with him without him talking about something to do with his father. And it wasn't gratuitous. It was like, oh, I need to go and see my father, or my father asked that I do this. So you suddenly knew that there was that father and son bond. And I guess if there's, I'm a Christian, and one of the things they say in my language is when God allows things to happen, he never allows them to happen without giving you something to give thanks for. So one of the things I am thankful about, even in all of this, is that his father predeceased him, because I think that relationship was very strong. And I'm not sure that the old man would have been able to be around if this had happened before he passed on. My last encounter with him was actually not necessarily a pleasant one, but also not an unpleasant one. My mother and I had gone to visit with him. It was a condolence visit I think it was in November, because as you know, his father died at the age of 99. And my mother was a classmate of his mom, who had died much earlier. And so my mom said, oh, let's go visit. And I said, yes, we should go and pay a condolence visit. One of the things that I remember was how gracious he and his wife were to my mom. My mom is going to be 91. At that time, she was 90. And they were so kind, you know, the type of kindness you should give to older people. Oh, are you comfortable? Are you cold? Would you like to sit down? Is that seat okay? And I was like, where are the people having a condolence visit with you? So that empathy is one of the things that I remember because he displayed it so well with his wife.
He had his early education at Corona School, Apapa, University of Lagos Staff School, Clements School, Hastings, Sussex and Igbobi College, Lagos, before proceeding to Millfield School, England, where he attained his GCEO levels. He obtained his law degree from the University of Lagos and a Master of Laws degree from the London School of Economics. Otumba Bimbo Ogunbanjo began his career as a credit analyst at Chase Manhattan Bank Limited. In 1990, he joined the prestigious law firm of Chris Ogunbanjo LP, where he served as the managing partner. He has extensive experience in commercial law with a particular focus on capital markets, shipping, and mergers and acquisitions.
He was a managing partner of Chris Ogunbanjo LP, and as you know, that's the one of the oldest and the seed of many commercial law firms, including this one. And there is hardly anybody of substance today in commercial law practice in Nigeria that do not, in one form or the other, trace their origins to Chris Ogunbanjo & Co. And for Bimbo to have been able to step into Papa's shoes, as we call him, was a feat, because Papa had this larger-than-life image. Bimbo always knew it was a tough act, but he stepped into it, and in his own way added so much value to the Ogunbanjo, the famed Ogunbanjo name. Because it's one thing to inherit a name, it's another thing to be able to add value to that name. I, like most people, woke up to this social media blitz about some helicopter crash. And initially, it was just Herbert Wigwe that was mentioned. And we started scouring around just to get a bit more information. And about 30 minutes later, a very close friend of mine called me to say, George, I understand Bimbo Ogunbanjo was on that flight. I said, how could that be? Because I'd spoken to Bimbo just the week before. I was in Port Harcourt for the funeral of my younger brother. And he had sent apologies for his inability to be there. And he did say he was traveling and that when he came back, he would come see me. I had no inkling that he was going to the US. So hearing it in this manner was just a rude shock, because I worked with Chief Ogunbanjo, as Bimbo's father, as far back as 1979. I was with him for about 4 years. And we had one of the best working relationships an employee could ever ask of an employer. Because he never treated me as an employee, more like a son. And I always acknowledge that whatever I have become in life was the direct impact of his mentorship on my life. So in the course of that, and he was so open, he essentially let me into his family. And that's how, through him, I got to know the wife and children, including Bimbo. At some point, Bimbo started studying law, and Chief was toying with the idea of, George, when Bimbo comes back, I want to see how we can reconstruct the firm so you can all be part of it.
Bamofin Ogunbanjo got married to Titi Ogunbanjo in 1995, a lawyer and businesswoman who was also his partner at Chris Ogunbanjo LP. Blessed with 2 children, a son and a daughter, Miss Ladun Ogunbanjo and Mr. Rotimi Ogunbanjo.
I first came across Otumba, as I called him at the time, as he would later correct me, that Bamofi is the right title for him. Just over 3 years ago, this was a time when I was trying to join the exchange. At the time, the exchange was looking for a CEO for the operating exchange. And of course, I'd heard about him because of the illustrious family that he comes from. But we really then started to really interact the few months leading to my employment at the exchange. And immediately I was, I would say, blown away by his level of just warmth, his openness. And I saw from him very quickly someone who believes in young people, someone who believes in mentorship. And I think I benefited very, very much so from that, both what I would call the process around the interviewing, but our relationship will then get a lot deeper, a lot more sort of engaging following my employment and my hiring into the exchange. In that time, we traveled on quite a few trips together. We, of course, interacted quite a bit. There were the highs and the lows, as with any relationship, running a business like the exchange. But through it all, one thing that I think stood firm through it all was just his belief in me, his belief in my ability, and his what I would call unflinching support for me. Your question about fun moments, there were quite a few of them. I remember, for example, a time we were in Cairo together. And it was then that I found out that he likes his wine, he likes the good quality things of life, likes to eat well, and we went out, on a few occasions together, and just generally had a good time together. And there were several versions of this in Lagos, in Abuja, overall. But I think for me, the other bit that I would mention is what I think through about his legacy is a very strong belief in young people. I would say that I also had what I think was the unique privilege from him, an opportunity where he asked me to mentor his son, Rotimi. And I would spend, many a time at his house with him, with his family. His wife actually still owes me a plate of amala as we speak today, which I will take her up on when we're all strong enough to revisit that. But overall, he's a very, of course, devoted, committed family man. And that shone through throughout his time and throughout his firm. I think overall also it's tough to complete this without talking about his impact on the exchange. To have seen the demutualization of the exchange happen under his watch after several decades, but more importantly, to stabilize the ship post the demutualization, I think was quite remarkable. And it's difficult to talk about the exchange that we have today that I think is buoyant, that is doing quite well, without referencing his legacy and the work that he did. The thing I liked about him was just his belief in relationships. He always had a call to make, regardless what the situation is. And I think that I found very inspiring. I also have made many strong relationships on the virtue of my interactions with him. I would probably leave those names unmentioned at this time, but some of the strongest relationships I have, some of the strongest mentors that I have, that remained very beneficial to me were really on the back of him taking me to them directly and asking them to please look after me, support me in this responsibility that I have. So that's one part of him that I have found very, very inspiring, the importance of relationships. The second bit to it also is what I would call just the openness to new learning. He was very constantly open to new ideas, to listening, to being open about things that he had a strong grasp around, and to learn about those things also that were relatively new to him, and then to be able to make an informed decision as a leader. I've also found that is something that I've continued to adopt and to adapt to. I think that the final thing I would say as far as his legacy is concerned and what I think still lives on is what I'd spoken of earlier, his commitment to his family. I found him to be a very, very strong family man. He loved his children, loved his wife. And in fact, most of the interaction that I had with him was typically at home. And even if not at home, he would always reference his family as a central focus of some of the things that he did.
Bamofe Ogunbanjo, a man admired for his outlook to life and described as one who knew how to unwind and had many friends.
He was full of life. He loved his family, loved his friends, and loved whatever he took to do very well. Examples are numerous. One thing I can tell you about is that I host my Salah events twice a year. And I can tell you, I can't remember Bimbo not being there in the last 10 years. And he would always ask me, Jalo, when is the day you're hosting? Because the Salah days are 2 days. And I would always give him a hint of it. But trust me, he would always come a bit late. And we know him for that. But that's what gives him that character. He was, in fact, someone that you could always go to for anything that you think you needed. And if you had the opportunity, he would do it for you. We would definitely dearly miss him. So, honestly, there are so many. Will it be boat club? Will it be the trips we took in terms of our study tours at the exchange in either New York, Chicago, or any of those places that we went? Would it be my time with him, even in my house during Salah? One day he was flying to London and had to stop by. We had to practically push him inside a car. He was wearing joggers and says, Jalo, the flight will wait for me. But again, numerous, whether it's with my family and his own family. Maimuna, my wife, always says, he's a great company to have around because his jokes, his humor, his ability to connect was significant in any form or shape. When I told my children, they could not believe it because they always saw him around the house. Too numerous to count. The one thing he always says is, Alhaji Jalo, don't look for trouble. And he would always try and advise not to get into any type of situation that was unnecessary. So that makes him a very good peacemaker.
It's a really sad time, tragic. But in all things, we give thanks to the Almighty. It's very sad. It's difficult for me to talk about Abimbola, my brother. Abimbola he was a great guy. He's a man who's known by so many nicknames. And I think when people have a lot of nicknames, it goes to show you who exactly they are. Some call him Legba, some call him Meron, some call him Bimbo Craig, some call him, so many nicknames. Bimbo had so many friends. And the outpouring of love, grief, incredulity, sadness, shock is overwhelming. There have been so many people that have been here, that I've seen, that I know personally, Bimbo's great friends. Every time I see one, I say, oh, wow, this is Bimbo's great friend. And I've seen, literally 150 people. And every single one of them, when they come in, I know that, oh, this is Bimbo's great friend. To show you the sort of person that he was. He was an accomplished lawyer, very, very focused, cerebral. I will really miss him. The family is going to miss him. His wife will miss him, his kids. But he's in a better place. And coming so soon after we buried our late father, who was 100 years, is really what is more poignant about this whole affair. But my brother Bimbo, my little brother Bimbo, when I think about him, I think about how he was a great West Ham fan. People know him as one of the few people who are West Ham fans. I introduced him to West Ham some almost 50 years ago now, because I was one of the first West Ham fans. And Bimbo, ever since that, took up the mantle. And he's a great hammer. And, he doesn't miss any West Ham game. He's really, it's a sad state of affairs. But As I said, in all things, we give thanks to the Almighty. His wife is here, Titi. His son is here, Timmy, his daughter, Lado. And I thank God for them all. I thank God for their lives. And definitely the Almighty will see us through this turbulent times.
Looking ahead, the financing requirements of the organized private sector in Africa remain significant. Stakeholders recognize that addressing the constraints to accessing finance requires a holistic approach, and therein lies the beauty of the capital market as an alternative source of funding that can complement bank financing.
His contribution to Nigeria's capital market cannot be overemphasized. Stakeholders in Nigeria's capital market also acknowledge this, as the demutualization of the Nigerian exchange required tact. In 2017, the exchange appointed him to be the chairperson of its Demutualization Advisory Committee.
Abimbola Ogunbanjo, because of his humility, openness, has contributed a lot to the development of the Nigerian capital market and stock exchange in particular. Abimbola was the president when the issue of demutualization was mooted, up to the time that we transformed to today a group as a PLC, as a demutualized exchange. And he became the first chairman of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, now known as NGX. I took over from him after he finished his term, because after demutualization, they were given 3 years as a transition for some of us that have joined the board to take over from them, which we did that with all passion, and his openness and his wise counsel has contributed in all the successes we have recorded. So we are going to miss Abimbola Ogunbanjo so much in the Nigerian capital market because of not only his contribution, but because of my personal interaction with him. Since I took over as the group chairman of the NGX, we always have a chat with him. I used to phone him whenever there's an activity at the NGS. I used to even invite him for the closing gong and some of the activities like our retreat for the board and the rest. Then my last interaction with Mr. Abimbola Ogunbanjo was the time when we did a transition at the NGS, where we have a new management and where I made sure that at least we took those that are within the organization as part of the succession. He was so happy. He called me, he congratulated me. He said that what we have done, that's the right thing for this market. So we are going to miss Abimbola Ogunbanjo so much in this market. May his gentle soul rest in perfect peace. Amen.
Describe Otumba Abimbola Ogunbanjo as somebody that had various aspects to his life, the professional aspect, the personal aspect, the family aspect, and things like that. And we shared a relationship that included the professional aspect and the personal friendship as well. We were both on the National Council of the then Nigerian Stock Exchange. We joined in 2011 and stayed all through to 2021 when the exchange was demutualized. We were in many sessions working for the betterment of the institution, the ecosystem, the capital market in general, the country in general. So he had a very good work ethic. We worked not only during working hours, we worked on weekends, depending on the exigencies of this situation. I called him wisdom, and he called me knowledge. And I think that was an acknowledgement of his wise approach to solving a number of the challenges that we faced during our stewardship to the Nigerian Stock Exchange and later on NGX Group.
With a big change as the demutualization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange into the NGX Group, Bamofin Ogunbanjo would later serve as the immediate past chairman of Nigerian Exchange PLC, the corporation he sold through demutualization and into a public company in 2021.
The business of the exchange has been running very smoothly, but we miss his counsel, his wise counsel. Because one thing the exchange has enjoyed over the years is the support of past presidents or now chairmen of the group. So we have always drawn from their wisdom in stabilizing the market, in ensuring the success of the market. So it's a family, it's a large family. So definitely the capital market will feel its exit.
Bamofin Ogunbanjo's immense contribution to the Nigerian capital market was rewarded in October 2022 when former President Muhammadu Buhari conferred on him the national honor of Officer of the Order of the Federal Republic. He had been a board member of several companies such as ICO Insurance, Better Glass, GTL Registrars, and ConocoPhillips. The 9th of February will go down as a sad day for the Ogunbanjo family, Nigeria's capital market, and the legal world, as the Airbus EC-130 helicopter carrying him crashed close to the California-Nevada border near Halloran Springs. As this incident claimed the life of Bamofin Abimbola Ogunbanjo, Mr. Herbert Wigwe, his wife Doreen, and their son Chizi Wigwe. Bamofin Abimbola Ogunbanjo, good night to a fine gentleman.